So the Prime Minister heads into tomorrow's NATO summit under pressure to up Canada's defence spending. But what do Canadians think? A new poll from CTV News, The Globe and Mail and Nanos Research finds Canadians split over increasing defence spending and how to pay for it. When asked about priorities, 45% want to spend more money on defence to meet the challenges posed by threats like the war in Ukraine, while 39% want more money into social programs. And if defense spending does go up, Canadians are split on how to pay for it. You can see a relatively even split here on increasing income taxes to pay for defense boosts, with more Canadians ultimately opposing an increase. And similarly, split response on paying for the increase with an HST hike. What do the MPs think? Well, let's bring them in. Rob Oliphant is the Foreign Affairs Parliamentary Secretary. Michael Chong is the Conservative Foreign Affairs Critic. And Heather McPherson is the NDP Foreign Affairs Critic. Thank you all for making time for us. It's always nice to have you back on the show. So Justin Trudeau is in Brussels, spoke to the EU Parliament today, even got a standing ovation, and is meeting with NATO allies tomorrow. Now, we know that Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has made it very clear what he expects from them, saying, quote, major reinforcements to our security will require major investments. Michael Chong, is the Trudeau government up to the task?
Well, we'll see. We're hoping that we're calling on the Prime Minister to make an announcement tomorrow at the Emergency NATO Summit that Canada will meet its 2% defense spending commitment, a commitment that has not been met in recent years. You know, Canada can no longer shirk its responsibility to the NATO alliance and to the defense and security, not only of Europe, but of Canada. The world has changed, and Canadian policy needs to change with it. We now have to uphold our NATO defense spending commitment. You know, this isn't a partisan issue. You know, in the words of former Liberal Minister John Manley, Canada can't be the country that when the bill comes due, gets up and goes to the bathroom. We have to pay and play our fair share of the contribution to the NATO alliance. It's vital for the security of Europe, and it's vital for the security of North America, including Canada.
So, you know, Heather, it's not only about money, although, you know, increasing military spending or defense spending to 2% of GDP means $25 billion more a year. But it's also about people. So are we actually able to recruit enough people in our armed forces?
Well, you know, one of the things that we have seen, and I do agree with Michael, this is a nonpartisan issue. This is an issue that we have seen our military be decimated over a long term. Like, this is not something that has just happened. We have not provided the tools that our soldiers, our men and women in uniform, need to do the jobs that we're asking them to do safely. We have not provided the recruitment. You know, we had set targets for recruitment to make sure that women were being recruited into the military. We have not met those targets. The Liberal government did not meet those targets, but the Harper government has not either. So this is not something that is coming out of the blue. This is not something new. This is a problem that we have had within our defense community for a very long time. And you know, we find ourselves in this situation, this horrible war in Ukraine, and Canada is not able to play the role that we would like to be able to play because of the actions that we've seen in the current government and subsequent governments.
So, Rob Oliphant, so basically subsequent governments, Conservative and Liberal, have been snoozing over this. For 2% of GDP on defense spending is not anything new. We know that was a NATO requirement from way back. According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, it means $25 billion more than we spend right now on defense. That's real money. Do you see this government getting there, and how long will it take to get to that 2%?
I think Canadians are being very clear, even though I looked at your polling, and I think what Canadians are saying is that their safety and security is important to them, and that the invasion of Ukraine by Russia illegally has been a wake-up call for Canadians across this country. And I think, you know, to put into context what John Manley said many years ago, he was following 8 years of Mulroney government where defense spending had decreased greatly. And I'm not even terribly blaming them, because people thought the world was a safer place in those days. We know it's not. And I think, however, our spending needs to be We need to continue spending on defense, absolutely. At the same time, we need to be spending on diplomacy, and we need to be spending on humanitarian assistance and democracy, building and funding democracies around the world. We need to go downstream or upstream rather, and make sure that we're finding a way to prevent these conflicts as well, and to rebuild and reconcile afterwards. So it's a complex situation. I don't think we can take defense spending uniquely. We have to add it into humanitarian and development spending, and we also have to put it in diplomatic spending. We have to be on the ground in the world. Canadians know that, and this has been a really important wake-up call. And I think also that the Prime Minister isn't only under pressure, he's pressuring. That speech at the European Parliament today was also pressuring our allies to do more as well. So we're in this together, and we're going to be there.
Heather McPherson, yes, but you know, NATO is about defense spending. You know, humanitarian is another section, is another thing, although, you know, laudable. But Heather McPherson, the Liberal and NDP deal announced yesterday, the supply and confidence agreement already has a heavy price: pharmacare, dental care, affordable housing. Does this mean difficult choices for this government and for Canadians? Because you can't have it all. That's what my grandmother taught me.
Well, listen, first of all, I just want to say that when you say that defense is not the same thing as humanitarian, you know, that's accurate, but they are very closely linked. And, you know, Rob talks about the need for humanitarian assistance to be linked to that. But let me tell you something. The community has been calling for the Liberal government to increase that humanitarian spending for a very, very long time. Right now, Canada is well below what we have promised on the world stage. We have been decimated in terms of diplomacy. We are not the Canada that we could and should be on the world stage. We have not taken that place back. So of course there needs to be choices, and we can't afford everything. Your grandmother, I'm sure, was a very wise woman. But the choices that I think Canadians want to make is that we want to play an important role in the world. We want to be the country that has peacekeeping, that represents humanitarian and multilateralism, that has the ability to do some of those things. We maybe don't need to be the country that doesn't tax the ultra wealthy. We maybe don't need to be the country that has massive amounts of profit going to oil companies, going to big box stores. You know, we make choices, and the choices we are making right now have got us into a situation that are the wrong choices. We have not put our money where Canadian values are. We have put it into big business and corporations instead.
So let me ask Michael Chongas, I think we have only 1 minute left. Would the federal government, and should the federal government, increase taxes to meet those NATO targets?
No, I don't think we should increase taxes. I think there's plenty of areas in government where we can find the resources to increase defense spending. The reality is that the world has changed. Germany had not met its NATO commitments for many years. After Russia invaded Ukraine and started bombing the hell out of Ukrainian cities, the German government and the German parliament did a 180 and announced that they were immediately meeting their 2% defense spending commitment. We are now an outlier in not making the same commitment. The United States meets its commitment to the NATO alliance, so does the United Kingdom, so does France, so do many of our European allies. We need to step up to the plate and realize that the world has changed, that our safety and security here at home is under threat from Russian aggression and from the rise of authoritarianism, both in Europe and in the Indo-Pacific region. We have got to come forward with a plan to meet that commitment. I'm looking forward to the Prime Minister to do exactly that at tomorrow's emergency NATO summit and in the upcoming federal budget.
And we'll see if Canada sends more troops to protect that eastern flank in Europe. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. MPs Rob Oliphant, Michael Chong, and Heather McPherson. Okay, quickly.
I just want to say troops left today from Valcartier to join the Operation Reassurance. And I think Canadians need to thank them, hold them in our thoughts and prayers, and make sure that they're safe while they're defending the eastern flank. And I think that's a very important thing for all of us. And this is nonpartisan. We're out there trying to do that on that eastern flank.
Excellent. That's an excellent point. I'm glad you made it.